Hi, I'm Hayley from Craft Yourself Silly, and we're going to have a look at the pin cushion project from the Take a Break, Create and Craft Along. So first step, we went through the previous video, and look back at that if you need to have a look at the basics of how to do English paper piecing. So first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need 8 hexagons for this, and you need them arranged in almost like a flower shape like this. So 1 in the center and then 6 around the outside, and then with your 8th one you're going to attach that to one side, because the way that this works is we're going to take each of these and then we're going to start folding them in like that. And if I just kind of bend this round a bit, you'll see that starting to take shape. So we're essentially sewing these sides together all of the way round, and once the paper's out it will kind of bow back out and create that nice round pin cushion shape. You're going to sew all of those sides together, and then on the remaining sides that you've got left at the bottom there, so if I hold those, that's what will slip into the bottom and that will create your shape. So let's get a few of these stitched together so we can show you that getting underway. So to sew these together, we're going to start with the center and keep adding on hexagons until you've got that flower shape. So I've already started, I've got a few together here. The last thing I need to do is come across here and up this side. So let's get those last few together. And in the video that explained how to do your English paper piecing, you would have seen all of these techniques, but we'll quickly run over this one again. So I'm using a whip stitch on the back of here, and that literally is whipping the fabric, the thread, sorry, over the top time and time again to create those stitches. You want as small a piece as you can of the fabric, because then fewer bits of thread will show through on the front when you've got there. So I'm just going to take tiny bit, and if you have a look there, see, tiny bits. The more you take, the kind of more obvious your stitches will be, so just try and keep them as tiny as you possibly can, and then you'll get a much better finished result on the other side. So when we get into the center, just for security, in case your thread snaps or you run out of thread, you just do a double stitch in the center and then carry on up to the end. And then once we've got all the way along, we're going to turn the corner and come down that other side. So that, remember, the formation you want for this is 1 in the center, and then, whoops, there we go, 1 in the center, surrounded by 6, and then an extra 1 added onto the flat edge that you've got. So now I'm at the corner there, I'm going to tighten that off, do a double stitch again just for security, and then once I've got my double stitch, I'm going to fold it out and then start along this next edge here. So I'm going to straighten it out and then fold it over in the other direction and take it along there. Now for this one, because it's a 3D one and we're going to be working in a slightly different way, because we're going to be sewing some edges together to create a 3D shape, what I would advise you do is first of all get all of the pieces sewn together. So get your 7, so you've got 1 in the center, 6 around the edge, and then you've got that extra 1 which is going to create the bottom to your pin cushion. So let me just get all the way up to here and get this one tied off, and then we'll get that last piece in and we can start creating the shape. So there's my center. I'm going to put double stitch in all the way to the top and tie it off. And you'll get, as soon as you kind of get the hang of this, you'll get a real pace going on this as well. So you'll be able to whiz through these in absolutely no time. This project, I would say, would average about an hour, maybe an hour and a half if you need a little bit of extra time on it, but it is super straightforward and should be a nice simple one for you to do. So we're going to go in and out here and in and out again just to secure that thread, keep it out of the way, and then trim it off. So that is our 6 together. From here, we're going to any of these straight edges. So we don't want to be coming into one of these kind of V shapes. Any of these straight edges, that's where we want to attach this extra one. So we're going to pop that onto there. So we'll fold that over. And once we've got that on, then we're going to start on those straight edges and pulling each of those kind of V shapes in together to create the 6 flat edges that will go round the bottom of this, which will be the base piece of our pincushion. So let's get this on first so everything's in place, and then we'll be able to do those. Okay, now we're on the corner, we can fold that out, and that's the shape that you're looking for. You're looking for that kind of flower shape plus your extra one on the top. And then from here, each of these V shapes, so where you've got the flat edges, they're going to start sewing on to these flat edges of your base piece, but all of these V shapes we need to attach together. So we're going to fold them face to face and then stitch along them. Turn it around, because I find it easier to, because I'm right-handed, what I tend to do is hold it with my left hand and hold in the direction that I'm stitching, and I find that helps me. There are patchwork police. I've met them, and they will tell you you're doing things wrong. Do you know what? If it works for you and you're happy with that technique and you're getting the results you want, then I think that is absolutely fine. So just find a method that you're happy with the results and it works and it feels comfortable for you. So I'm in the center, quick double stitch, and then right up to that end. And you'll see this quickly starts to take shape as soon as you start sewing those V pieces together. So one more stitch, and then what I'll do is I'll quickly turn this through so you can see it starting to take shape, and then I'll jump onto one that I've already stitched a few more pieces in so you can see the shape that it starts to create, because initially I think you might be starting to worry a little bit because it's looking a bit of a funny shape, but it will all come good in the end. So let me just tie this off, and then I'll flip this one through just so you can see the result on that, and you can see how it's starting to form that pincushion shape. So if I push that through, can you see that's starting to form that pincushion shape, which by the time we've got all of these tucked in, it will become really, really obvious. So there you go, starting to form that pincushion shape. Now from here, you just simply keep going. You keep stitching all of those V pieces together, and this is what you'll end up with. What you'll find is a lot of the pieces start to kind of curl in over, so it looks a very, very funny shape. But you keep going until you've got all but 2 or 3 panels sewn together. And now I say 2 or 3, some people are more comfortable with just leaving 2 and having less to stitch up on the other end, and some people are more comfortable with 3, so it's easier to turn out, but they have 3 to stitch up when it's the right way out. So where do we go from here? So I've got, say, 1, 2, 3, 4 bits still to sew at the minute. So what I would do is I would personally leave these 2 here. So these 2 that would be on the bottom that you're not going to see. So I'm going to stitch this one up, and then I'm going to stitch this one up, leaving these 2 at the bottom here open and ready to turn out. Now once you've got it to that stage, you need to start removing the paper pieces, because obviously if you're going to use it as pincushion, you need to be able to put pins in it, and if it's still got the cardboard in, you're not going to be able to do that. So to remove the paper pieces, what we're going to do is just unpick all of those stitches that we did initially to hold that card in place. And because these were big tacking stitches, they should pull out relatively easily, and then you'll just be able to get a fingernail underneath and pop those out. And this will start to help you to be able to move it and turn it right side out. But don't take these paper pieces out until you've stitched all the way around and you've done as many of the sides as you need. You really just want 2 sides, maybe 3 sides left when you start to take these out. Definitely don't take them out before that. So once you've taken all of the paper out, it will start to look a bit like this. And then the last step is to turn the whole thing right side through. So let's just do that. And you need to be a little bit careful with this, a little bit gentle, because you don't want to push any of your hand stitches out. And then work your way around slowly, just pushing all of those corners through. Once you've got all the corners through, you've got some filling that's included with your kit, so you'll be able to use that filling. And because the whole I've only got 2 sides open for this hole, so that means it's quite a small hole, and I'm going to use smaller pieces and do smaller pieces at a time and just build it up. So we're going to sneak all of those in, and then you do get quite a generous amount in your kit. You can use all of it, you can use some of it, it's entirely up to you and how packed you feel that you want your pincushion. Really good tip actually is you can put wire wool in these as well, and that helps to keep your pin sharp as well, because every time it goes in it scrapes against the right wire wool, and it tends to help keep your pins nice and sharp. So I reckon I can get a little bit more in here. Oh, it's bobbling about all over the place, so we'll get a little bit more in, last bit. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is push all of this right down away from my fabric opening that I need to stitch up, because that's going to give me a lot more movement within the fabric and make it easier for me to sew together. So, sewing it together, we're going to take our needle and thread. We're going to put one of our big scruffy knots in. This is going to go onto the inside, so we're not going to see it, but we need something that's definitely not going to pull back through from the fabric. So you can see there I've got quite a big knot on there. So this is going to go inside that seam allowance and then come right out in that corner. You see there, I've got it right in the corner of this piece of fabric here. So it's just coming out right in the corner of that piece of fabric. And then we're going to use what's called a ladder stitch to sew it back together. So for a ladder stitch, we're first of all going to bring it up there, and then we're going to take it back down almost instantly. So we're going to take it back down and then come along about 2 or 3 millimeters, and we're going to bring it back up again on the same side in that same seam allowance bit. I'm just going to tighten that needle back up so I don't lose my thread. Then we're going to jump across to the other side, same kind of height or same kind of level as the stitch that we've got coming out of the first piece of fabric. We're going to jump across to the second piece of fabric, and again in and out just within that seam allowance. So we're stitching just within the seam allowance, and you can see it spans across. And then we're going to come back to the other side, same distance along, and make it level, and then take it up a little bit. And as you can see, it's creating what looks a bit like rungs on a ladder, and this is why it's called a ladder stitch. And then once you can see all those rungs there, when we get to the end, we just pull it tight, all of those rungs disappear, and you've got a completely invisible join for your pincushion. So you're going to do that all the way along, and then when you get to the corner, you can change direction and come all the way up this side, and once that's stitched together, that will give you your completed pincushion, and you are all finished. That's your first project. We're going to have, there's 2 more projects. You can find all of the details within the Take a Break and Create and Craft alongs, so join me for the next one.